You're watching NASA TV.
Welcome to Mission Control Houston. We are live from the International Space Station Flight Control Room as teams prepare for US Spacewalk 90. You are currently seeing a live view of NASA astronauts Tracy Dyson and Mike Barratt inside the Quest airlock aboard the International Space Station as they prepare for their 6.5-hour spacewalk. Today's spacewalk will complete the removal of a faulty electronics box called a radio frequency group from a communications antenna on the starboard truss of the space station. The astronauts will also collect samples for analysis to understand the ability of microorganisms to survive and reproduce on the exterior of the orbiting laboratory. The crew member and the life support system is attached to the back of the suit to provide oxygen and suit pressurization, water for cooling, CO2 scrubbing capabilities, battery power, and radio, as well as a caution and warning system to monitor the suit's status. The suits are fitted on the ground for the crew, but they also refit the suit in space to account for any spinal elongation or fluid shifting that has occurred since arriving at the International Space Station. Engineers on the ground take about 80 measurements to ensure that each spacewalker has the best fitting spacesuit, which includes about 16 major elements that compose the suit itself. On his wrist, you can see a playbook, which are the procedures to reference during the spacewalk. He will also have those instructions relayed up to him from the ground IV. The ground IV for today's spacewalk will be NASA astronaut Steve Bowen.
3, 2, 1, end exercise.
Further up, and you just heard the call from the Capcom or capsule communicator here in Mission Control stating that they completed cycle 10 of the in-suit light exercise. That is the final cycle of that procedure. They're now working to replace a metal oxide canister, or MEDOX. This canister helps to cycle CO2 from the EMU. And the EMU is the extravehicular activity mobility unit, or the spacesuit that you see the crew members currently wearing.
EV1 CCV 8.
Houston copies.
Barratt into the crew lock. You heard him reference seeing EMU TV and powering that on. This references the camera for the EMU, which will help provide views outside the International Space Station as the crew works through today's spacewalk. And now you can see NASA astronauts Matt, Dominic, and Jeanette Epps moving NASA astronaut Mike Barratt into the crew lock to join his fellow spacewalker Tracy Dyson. After they finish moving the crew into the crew lock portion of the Quest airlock, they will begin to close the hatch between the crew lock and the equipment lock.
Good copy. Mike, EV2, check. The switch, depress pump power is off.
Depress pump power is off. OFF.
Copy. Verify the depress pump enable LED is on.
That is on.
And EV1 has a functional display.
EV2 functional display.
UIA, switch power EV1 and 2 switches to off. Disconnect your SCU from your DCM and install a DCM cover and stow the SCU in its pouch.
Hey, Steve, when do we go water on?
Once you get the SCU stowed and we check a couple other things, then we'll take it on. But not quite yet. You'll get there.
Gotcha. Okay. Just make sure I got my pouch.
Oh,
Water
wow.
flowing out of my SCU, guys.
Yeah, there's a lot of particulates flowing around here.
Yeah, can we turn the water off for the UIA?
And you can reconnect your SCU to your DCM, and we'll take a look at that.
Got a lot of water flowing.
Is it still coming out?
I don't think we can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's water
It's
everywhere
frozen.
Okay, let's get your SCU reconnected
I
to
don't
your
want to try
DCM.
it.
Yeah, there's literally water everywhere here now.
Steve, I don't think we should try it. I think we need to turn the water off. There's water everywhere. Not sticking out on my SCU.
And Tracy, the best way we can do
I
this
got
is
ice
if
all
you
over
can,
my helmet.
if you can
And you have an active leak on.
Tracy, if you can connect your SCU back to your DCM, that's the best way to stop this.
All right.
Live view of the airlock camera for you.
It's connected, but I don't have it locked yet.
Just work on getting it locked, and I just want to verify
Stand by.
the water was coming from the SCU side.
Yes, I can verify that the water was coming from the SCU side.
Okay.
Stand by. Well, I got ice all over my hands.
All right, just work on getting your SCU connected, and I'm going to start working through the checklist for this.
How's your vision, TC?
Vision's good. Getting a tone. Well, reserve water on. Time left 30.
Copy the reserve water on, and have you got your SCU reconnected yet?
I have it connected, I just think it's locked.
Work on getting it
Not
locked.
locked yet.
And Mike, I just want to verify that you're still on the SCU.
I have reconnected my SCU and it is locked.
You can help Tracy get hers locked.
Okay.
good.
I'm just thinking about.
Can I put on my ears on my gloves?
You just want to double check that your SCU is locked.
SCU is locked.
Okay. So with both of you on SCUs and locked, we're going to terminate for the day. So Tracy, we'd like you to shut the EV hatch and lock it.
You've heard quite a bit of communication between the crew and the team here in Mission Control Houston. The spacewalk for today has been canceled due to a spacesuit cooling unit water leak that began right after the suits were put on internal battery power. The crew is now moving back into the airlock and closing that EV hatch.
It's right. We have time left, 4 minutes.
All right, so your reserve water on says 12 minutes. As I said, that's a dummy timer. You have good pressures, so that's not a concern.
Okay.
We see both of you in press now, so we are going to proceed from there. Check the EV hatch MPEV is closed, Tracy.
Yes, it's closed. The hatch MPEV is closed.
You can now take the IV hatch equalization valve and throttle off to norm to establish the required rate.
And should we do that, or I'm expecting IV to do that?
Yeah, and that's there.
And Mike, we would like you to do that because.
And Steve, Matt, I'm ready to pick up the repress cue card if you'd like, and understand step 3 IV hatch equalization valve throttle off to norm.
Yeah, I think we're going to let Mike do that.
Go ahead, Steve.
I'd like to have Mike do that to bring this up so they can manage it. And then once we get through the leak check at 5.0, that's probably when I'll turn over to you, Matt. We want to make sure we get a good seal on the hatch based on the possibility that there's ice there. So we're going to do that leak check. You verify it at 5, and once we're done with that point, I'll be able to turn it right over to you after that.
Copy.
All right, get in position here real quick.
Let me know if you need me to do anything, Mike.
No, fine. All right, I'm in position. I have a hand on it, and I'm going to start very gently.
Following the termination of today's spacewalk, the EV hatch has been closed and they are now beginning the repressurization process of the crew lock.
And Tracy, you just want to make sure how you feel in the suit. We understand your hands are cold. Want to make sure you feel like your LCVG is working, and you can obviously adjust your heating and cooling a little bit if you need to.
Now I'm comfortable, but I do feel a little warm.
All right, well, you copy that.
There's water on, 24 minutes left.
And so, Tracy, just another quick question about your SCU. Did you get it fully clear from the DCM as you were removing it so you could verify exactly which direction that water was coming from, or did you keep it close, realizing that something was leaking?
I had it way clear. In fact, I was trying to hold it outside the hatchway. In the cameras, you may have seen some snowflakes because it was coming out of the port that's, if I'm not mistaken, if you're holding it in your right hand, it was the bottom right quadrant, and it was flowing out of it pretty good. I couldn't see what was coming out of my DCM because I had a layer of ice on my visor. But there, I brushed it away and I could see the SCU, which I was holding out. It wasn't out of the hatch, but there was enough of a gap in the thermal cover that I could see the ice crystals were flowing out there. And then, just like a snow cone machine, there was ice forming at that port on the SCU.
Sounds like you had pretty good rate out of the SCU. I mean, if you get ice on your visor that quick and you had a pretty good cloud, good job getting the SCU back on and locked, because that's definitely a little bit of ice buildup. That could have been a big problem. Thanks for getting that done.
I just want to hear that if I go to SCU, I'm going to be okay because there's water on that SCU interface.
You're still leaking water, QC?
I don't know, but when I put it on, there was still water shooting out.
Should be
So
fine.
we can assume that there's water in there. Set?
Should be fine. That it should be separated. But that's a good question. We're all looking at each other, and we all agree we should be fine. One last delay. We'll do one check. That section obviously should be isolated, and you know how those electrical connections are made up in there. It has a little bit of a insulation around, and it's unlikely you would have gotten it fully closed if it had anything in there to be concerned about.
Okay, because I understand that when it's mated, they're isolated, but while it was unmated, it was shooting water at my DCM. So we can presume that water got into that connector, the electrical connector, and I don't know, I mean, I'm sure it's sublimated, but if there was any ice crystals in there, you're telling me that I wouldn't be able to get my SCU on and locked?
Yeah.
You're telling me that I wouldn't be able to get my SCU on and locked?
Yeah, but, out of concern, we're looking at just bringing you up without that, without your power. We've got plenty of battery power.
Okay,
It's
thank
not
you.
going to be an issue. That's
Yeah.
good to hear.
I turned off my glove heater. I turned off the glove heater, so it did the trick.
Okay, so we're going to pick up here, and the delta is we're going to bring Mike up on the SCU, so I'll give him the switch throws for that. And during the repress, Tracy, you should expect a battery amps high message, which you can acknowledge, but that's just an indication the battery's being used a little bit more than expected, and there's no action for you beyond just acknowledgement.
To climb, we expect that pressure to get up to about 14.7 psi before they open the hatch, Barratt back in, and begin removing their suits.
Airlock Houston on 1 for mini big picture.
Go ahead.
All right, Matt, once we get the IV hatch open, we'd like for you to perform an inspection and give us a verbal report, taking a look at the suits and your best estimate of quantity of water in the crew lock. We do understand that some of that may have been lost.
Wilco, Butch is looking out the gem window. I went to the robotics workstation. I could see Iceflex flying around the space station on almost all the cameras, so that should give you a perspective. And then looking in the airlock, it was pretty impressive. It was watching a snowstorm.
Houston, copies. Thanks for that description. Once we get the report of the crew lock, we'd like for you to clean up with towels if you have any extra hands available. And then going into post-DVA procedure, obviously you could skip the RFG steps. We want you to stop prior to step 90 for EV1. So this is a SCU step. That may give us a chance to do some troubleshooting.
Can I get my right waist tether off of the D-ring extender for him?
Yeah.
Make that a little easier.
And let's wait till Matt puts the water switch cards on.
Okay.
And the hatch is now open at 8:51 a.m. Central, 9:51 a.m. Eastern.
All right, Houston, the hatch is open, and I'm just going in there to look for water before I move anybody or anything.
Copy, we're listening.
Matt, you got those water switch cards? Yes.
So that's in the procedure, we'll get there. Jason, can you point to where you think you saw water?
Here. And there's one on the hatch. One here. Yes. I think those might be drops, I'm not sure. See it? Here. Don't look at my leg. Thank you. You said I couldn't go back until I had RFC, so.
Oh, yeah.
That's it. Then see where it says last in Sharpie. It's really unimpressive now. But there's some on my gloves, I think, still, or at least it was the. Got to wear them now. It's all pretty much evaporated.
In that airlock inspection, the only drops are on Tracy's side of the crew lock. Maybe 4 on the wall, or 3 to 4 millimeters in diameter. A small one on her visor, but there's very little water. I mean, there's like nothing. 4 or 5 drops on the wall. That's all I can find.
Houston copies. Good report.
Pat, we're going to go ahead and start pulling them out if you're good with that.
Houston concurs.
And you can now see NASA astronaut Mike Barratt currently being moved from the crew lock to the equipment lock portion of the International Space Station's Quest airlock. The safer or simplified aid for EVA rescue has been removed from the back of NASA astronaut Mike Barratt's extravehicular mobility unit, or EMU, which is the white spacesuit that he's currently wearing.
Houston Airlock on 1. Understand the messages on board?
Paper messages on board, number 433.
Can you give me a step where I need to start looking at that message? Because I want to keep moving with the crew.
Yeah, some of them are going to be pretty apparent and related to the RFG. So in step 54 is probably where you see a delta. That's just a stowage step. And then look closely on the rest of the steps.
I'm not going to look at that message until I get to step 53. Does that work?
That'll work, Matt.
On your screen, you're seeing NASA astronaut Mike Barratt on the left-hand side and NASA astronaut Tracy Dyson on the right-hand side in the extravehicular mobility units. They had donned those spacesuits several hours ago and completed pre-breathe protocols, moved into the crew lock, depressurized the crew lock down to vacuum, opened the EV hatch, and turned their spacesuits on to battery power. Shortly after setting their suits to battery power at 8:46 a.m. Eastern, 7:46 a.m. Central, the crew reported a water issue. After some brief troubleshooting on the ground, the spacewalk was officially terminated due to this water leak that was resulting from the service and cooling umbilical unit on NASA astronaut Tracy Dyson's spacesuit. The service and cooling umbilical is an umbilical that attaches the EMU or extravehicular mobility unit to transfer electrical power, hardline communications, oxygen, cooling water, and feed water between the International Space Station and the EMU or extravehicular mobility unit. At no time was the crew in any danger during this water leak, but as a result of the termination of the spacewalk, the EV hatch was closed, and they began the process to repressurize the crew lock, bringing it back up to 14.7 pounds per square inch. They then opened the hatch between the crew lock and the equipment lock and moved NASA astronauts Mike Barratt and Tracy Dyson back into the equipment lock, where they removed their SAFERs, or simplified aid for EVA rescue, and have now begun doffing or removing their suits. This water issue was traced to a water leak in the service and cooling umbilical unit on NASA astronaut Tracy Dyson's spacesuit. At no time was the crew in any danger, but they did make the decision to terminate the spacewalk as it was unclear how much water was left in the water tanks of Tracy Dyson's suit. The crew then closed the EV hatch and worked with ground controllers to repressurize the crew lock section of the Quest airlock before returning inside the station's equipment lock. The crew then worked to remove their spacesuits, and they have successfully removed from their extravehicular mobility unit, or EMUs, to complete today's spacewalk activities. The official duration of today's spacewalk was 31 minutes. That brings NASA astronaut Tracy Dyson's total spacewalking time up to 23 hours and 20 minutes across 4 EVAs. And it brings NASA astronaut Mike Barratt up to 5 hours and 37 minutes of spacewalking time across 3 EVAs. Teams here in Mission Control Houston will continue to spend the day troubleshooting and collecting imagery and data from the crew aboard the International Space Station to better understand what exactly happened with the service and cooling umbilical unit and the water leak that took place today.